Hello and welcome to the Promised Land, a show about Manchester United and part of the 90 Min podcast network. We've had a small break, but we are back. I'm Scott Saunders, joined as ever by Rob Blanchette. And Rob, is it a surprise to you that I've taken even as much as 3 weeks off? I think we've had 2 weeks, but the takeover is still not done.
Well, I think that's the longest we've ever had off, isn't it, in that way for the podcast? But no, the takeover hasn't been done, and you're in exactly the same spot you are that we said, 3-4 months ago, that the Glazers might eke this one out until the end of time. So I don't know why anyone is surprised about that, but of course we will touch on it today and in the future.
7 months and counting. Also, worth saying, it's not necessarily a takeover. Still might not happen. But sorry, I don't want to get your mood down within a minute of the show. We've been off for 2 weeks. I've been on holiday in Mexico, so sorry. I wanted to take a bit of a break, but we are back, and we'll be back as per usual because the summer transfer window is open, and Man United are being. How would you describe them? Because we just started recording this podcast as it has become public that David De Gea was offered a contract. He signed it. United took it back and offered him worse terms after that. And that's kind of where we are. We'll talk about that in a bit. But how would you summarize the first few weeks of Man United's transfer window, Rob?
I would summarize it as very Man United. So do people feel the Groundhog Day from last season and all the seasons before, where Man United put out the feelers and look for players and do some of their due diligence, but then just take forever to do stuff? So I'm not concerned as a fan whether United are going to buy players, because they just will. Last summer is exactly the same thing, wasn't it? We were talking about them trying to get deals over the line and then them kind of treading water for a bit. I'm not massively against that. I think that's just the business of football. But of course, then you'll compare it to someone like City or Chelsea or other teams that kind of just go and fire the shotgun straight away and get their deals done, and people don't know about it until it happens. That's not really the way the Glazers or Manchester United do it, is it? So not surprised at all, but also not particularly worried.
Let us know if you're worried in the comments. There's certainly lots to talk about. We've been away for 2 weeks, as we say. Plenty has developed since. So we'll use today's show as a little bit of a catch-up for things that are happening now and things that we've maybe missed or haven't touched on over the last couple of weeks when we've been away. But subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and watch us now on YouTube as well. Head over to the channel if you haven't already. Subscribe, like the video, leave a comment for us, follow us on Twitter @_Scott Saunders, @Rob_B, @PromiseandMU for the show. Are you on Instagram, Rob? We're doing some promotion now for the Vegas trip on Instagram as well.
No, I'm not. But if all our followers are, please obviously follow our content from Vegas.
Yes, @Scott Saunders 89. If you like Instagram and want to follow me there, we'll be promoting our Vegas trip, which is from July 28th at UnitedCon, the place to be for United fans to come together on their preseason tour of the US. Visit united-con.com to book your place. That is around the Borussia Dortmund game in Vegas at the end of July. Now, okay, let's start with, we've done the takeover line. We don't need to do it again. Let's start from the back of the pitch. David De Gea, his contract is not signed, even though it was signed. United offered him terms we believe equated to around £200,000 a week. I don't know if you can hear in the background, by the way, there's like a class of kids like shouting and screaming. I hope it's not coming across on the mic. But 200 grand a week, United offered it to him. He signed it, was happy with it. United have since reneged on that, taken the deal away, offered him terms that are not as favourable as that. I'm guessing with a squad status as well, which is not guaranteed, number one, because we will talk about Andre Onana soon enough. And we feel like the picture is becoming a bit clearer with what they want to do around the goalkeeper. Mm-hmm. First off, Rob, let's get this out the way. David De Gea has been here 12 years, clean sheets record. That's not, like, you know that myself, I've pushed for De Gea to be released because I think it's a necessary move to start competing at the top if you want to. But to me, treatment of a player who's been there for 12 years, that's not very nice, is it?
No, well, frankly, it's disgusting. Like, I think this is the criticism that we have of Manchester United in terms of the director of football function, in terms of knowing what players you want, what you want to offer them, and how you retain those players while also conducting transfers. It's very kind of staged. There's a kind of method to the madness. And I think with David De Gea, we said this last season. We said, why are Man United even offering him a contract? You know that he doesn't really fit what you need in terms of what Ten Hag wants from the back of the pitch going forward. So why are we going through this kind of whole shebang of this is what we're going to do with De Gea, and we're going to try and negotiate to the point where he signs a deal? But he's not going to be your number one. He said that he will only stay if he's the number one. He will say, he's also said, I will stay for a salary reduction. So they got to that point, didn't they, Scott, where weeks before the FA Cup final, we talked about this, was that everything was done. That was what we heard, wasn't it? We'd heard from
Camps. Well,
it was finished. So United had to sign their contract. De Gea had to sign his part of the contract. De Gea did sign his bit of the contract. And then what happened? United went, we're not signing it now. What changed? What did they not know before the FA Cup final before that? Well, the truth is, nothing. What they did to David De Gea is not acceptable, and not really acceptable to any footballer. So we're in a situation now where they've offered David De Gea much reduced terms, because the feeling is he would be the number two. He'd be the reserve. David De Gea is not going to be interested in that, is he? Why are you even offering him more reduced terms? Why don't you just rip that contract up?
Why would you offer a number two status on reduced terms, which will probably equate to 120, 150? That's not how you do.
But you also know David De Gea, now in this brand new world of the Saudi Pro League, has got offers on the table which are ginormous. He's got two big offers on the table, which are going to be huge cash surpluses in his bank account every week. And he could go to Saudi and get that money. Why would he sign a contract for 120 to 150 at Manchester United to sit on the bench? He is not going to do that. So Manchester United know this. David De Gea and his representatives know this. What are you doing? Why are you wasting your time doing this kind of stuff? So this is where I think the criticism needs to sit at the director of football's table, because it's not the Glazers negotiating that bit. That's the people running the function of the football club. And it's up to Richard Arnold to be able to say, actually, we don't need to be doing this. So thanks, David. Off you go. Take your big offer somewhere else. We'll just go get another number two somewhere else for 20 grand a week, because you could.
Of course.
You've just signed Heaton up, haven't you? Heaton's going to be staying at the football club. So it's not like your reserve function has a massive problem there. You've just got an old goalkeeper. But you're going to go get a new goalkeeper. You're going to hopefully get someone that it looks like our manager knows very, very well, and we'll talk about. But if you know all of this, then just do it. Just stop messing around. Let De Gea go and do it with respect, because there's not a lot of respect in football, Scott, and that is a problem. But at the same time, you don't need to be like this.
We talk about the people running the club and who've put that offer on the table. Question, Ten Hag, does he need to take some criticism for this? Because obviously, David De Gea's performances in the final third of the season were poor. There were mistakes he made in Seville, the FA Cup final. He's had criticism for the goals that went in that game. He's had criticism for... There's other mistakes. West Ham, these are just ones I'm naming off the top of my head after 2 weeks away. We obviously know, and it's been obvious all season, from when United tried to play out from the back at Brentford, when they got battered 4-0, and then they changed the way that they distribute the ball from the Liverpool game after it. We've known all year that David De Gea cannot play like Andre Onana will play. And we know that Erik ten Hag likes his goalkeepers to play like Andre Onana or
Raya or Costa or every other the goalkeepers who've got feet. Yeah.
I think Onana's a different level even to those, but
yes, he is,
in that sense. But if they've reneged on their decision, surely that's come from Ten Hag.
Yes and no. I think the thing is, it's difficult to talk so laterally about it, but the truth is that Manchester United were in the ballpark for Kim, and they wanted Kim, and that was going to take up obviously 50 odd million pounds of their money. And that was something Man United wanted to execute. They went and did all of that. They did all the due diligence. They sorted it out. Then they decided that they had to change that stance because Harry Maguire's stance about leaving the football club, which is that he would like to stay. So I think with the goalkeeper, that's where it's changed. It's not about whether you rate De Gea less. Like, we know what De Gea is. Like, come on. We know what it is. It's not a football thing. You say about Eric Ten Hag. I don't think Eric Ten Hag ever sat there with Richard Arnold and didn't talk about new goalkeepers. Like, come on. Like, we keep saying this.
That's fair.
We said that at the end. We said it not just in the season, but during the season. We know that De Gea does not fit the profile of goalkeeper that this manager wants. But when you go and get him, you have to decide whether he's problem number 6 or problem number 3 or problem number 1. And I remember you said for you is problem number 3. And I said, I think for Ten Hag, maybe problem 5 or 6. But that changes when you're not going to buy that centre-back. When you're not buying Kim, then it all reshuffles itself. So you're going to now go get a goalkeeper. And you know what, Scott? You probably needed that anyway.
Yeah, let's just, on that, I mean, we did our player sales and all this kind of stuff before our little break. I think we concluded that United need really 8 players, right? Something like that. They're not going to get 8 in one summer unless magical takeover happens and an endless pit of money is there to be used. Like, that's not going to happen. So United have to, that's a fluid situation. So United are potentially open to changing plans on how they behave this summer and how they behave next summer. Because like we say, if there are 8 positions, you do 4 this summer, 4 next, 5 and 3. There's inevitably going to be more that changes next season as well. So those positions you haven't filled might change as well. But yeah, to me, you said it there, Rob. I put this issue as number 3 on the priority list after a goal scorer, and you need some more in midfield. But it was a serious one for me. And obviously, you mentioned there on Harry Maguire. We'll talk about the centre backs in a bit, but how are United going to shift a player on who's their club captain on 190, £200,000 a week to a club like West Ham, or who else is going to take him? Really, Leicester was the other one. They've been relegated. That's not happening. No. Newcastle have not shown any interest there. You have to change tact a little bit. And as much as I've been supportive of United making a change in goal, I think to have De Gea sign a contract and then take it away from him for a player who's been here for 12 years that most people would consider a club legend is not really fair.
It's massively unfair.
And I've called ruthlessness.
Yeah, but do you know what? There's ruthlessness, and then there's kind of like fecklessness. There's like getting your stuff done and being okay with that, and saying to players, you know, we love you, goodbye, thank you. And you can do that with respect. You don't have to push everyone off the edge of a cliff. You can sort it out professionally. And what Man United have done here with this deal is that we put that question forward. We said, why are you putting a contract in front of this guy? It doesn't make sense. Like, if you really wanted a number 2, you'd do it a different way, surely. And now we're in a situation where obviously the pieces have jiggled themselves, and that's where you are. And you're now looking at a goalkeeper. You know, Onana is a player who is someone that obviously people have been aware of for a very long time. He's gone to Inter. He's done really well at Inter, had a really kind of eye-catching Champions League final. So now United fans are going, oh, he's really good with his feet, isn't he? And Man United have kind of done the same thing. Man United have gone, oh, that guy you liked, Eric. You know, you talked to us about Onana a year ago. We could have had him on a free transfer a year ago, but we didn't do that.
Well, it was all, I think, to be fair, it was all agreed with Inter.
He was gone to Inter. It was done. It was done. So that is to be fair. But I'm telling you, like, Eric Ten Hag put a whole list of players forward that he would like, and that's how it worked with United. And that's how it works this year. But now United are going, all right, so we're not going to do Kim, and we're stuck with Harry. So what should we? Do you know? Let's do a goalkeeper. That's not really how you do business. Business is fluid, but that's how Man United do business. And Man City, of course, are like the other end of the spectrum where they will cherry pick stuff and they'll go, we're going to lose Gundogan in a year. So we'll work on that now and we'll get where we need to be in a year and we'll buy the midfielder we want. Oh, our defense is all right this year. It's done well. Ake's done well. When we bought Kanji, they've all done well. But we want someone who's going to take Laporte's minutes. Laporte can sit on the bench for the rest of the year and we'll go and buy Gvardiol. So that's how you should do your business, whereas Man United don't do it like that. That's why things chop and change so much with United.
City aside, they might sign Declan Rice as well. That's being greedy.
Exactly.
But anyway, Andre Onana, then, we haven't talked about him. So we have talked about is how much a goalkeeper who can play with his feet and distribute and sweep keep and come out of his area and dribble past players and end up in midfield or whatever. Like, how much would that change United and the way that they play? Like, obviously, you saw, and I was at the Champions League final, saw this up close. Like, his bravery and his confidence to distribute the ball under pressure. And Pep talked about it before the game as well. How Onana's so good with his feet at distributing that it changes the way that Man City are going to defend. And even in the first minute, he passed the ball out of play. It was like the first 10 seconds. But you could see how City were thinking, oh God, we have to deal with this and we have to learn how to deal with this pretty quickly.
Yeah.
How much will that change? If let's say, like, there's no deal struck yet, but looking like United might be able to pull this one off.
Yeah.
And it looks like the priority list is that he's come up it.
Yeah.
How much will this change United's style?
It would change Manchester United's style 100%. It's just kind of as dramatic and as obvious as that. If you live in the camp where you realize how important goalkeepers are with their feet, as I said, I think we coined a phrase a real long time ago now called sweeper keeper. And when we used to write it in our pieces and our articles, people used to laugh at us all the time and go, what do you mean sweeper keeper? Goalkeepers not sweepers. Well, if you live in the camp where you believe that Ederson and Alisson are as important to City and Liverpool as, say, their midfielder, then great. But Man United have not been there. Man United have not been able to do that with De Gea. Now, you're in a situation with De Gea where you're enforced, aren't you? Because you're going to lose De Gea. That's just the truth. And you've manufactured that. So do
you think now that is done?
I do, yeah. Like, if I'm David De Gea, I'm not staying for 120 grand a week and not playing. Like, just not doing it. I either sign a deal for 120 a week at another club where I play every single week and have maybe a similar chance of winning as I have at United. Because let's be honest, if United have a bad year next year, they could come 6th or 5th. They could, couldn't they? That's the truth. You'd be in the Champions League.
7th even.
Well, look, you're in the Champions League, then you're out of the Champions League. Like that, time changes things, doesn't it? But yes, I do think that De Gea is cooked. I don't see De Gea staying, and why would he? And I don't blame him. But then if you're going to go get Onana done, and Onana's representatives are here in the country, and so are Inter's. So this is bubbling away, and it could happen at any moment. If you do that, you are getting potentially the best goalkeeper in the world with his feet. He is of that caliber. So
that's not overstating it either. Like,
it's not dramatic. That's the truth. So if you're doing that, you are basically saying to your squad, your defenders, your midfielders, your attackers, the counter press starts with the goalkeeper. Now that's a revolution for Man United, because Man United's counter press kind of starts with Bruno Fernandes in the middle of the park. So you're going that far back in the pitch that if you nick the ball off a centre forward with a goalkeeper, that goalkeeper can play the 60-yard pass almost to feet in exactly the same way that Ederson does. Watch Man City's stats from last year. Go and read them. And Man City played tons of long ball last year because you can do teams if you've got a goalkeeper that can do it. Alisson does it with Liverpool. Play long ball to feet. So that's what would change. And you haven't really had defenders that do that. Think about it, Scott. Wan-Bissaka can't really do that, can he? Inside, Varane can, but Lindelof kind of can, but doesn't. Maguire's too slow. Then at left back, Luke Shaw definitely can do it. Luke Shaw is an all-round kind of forward-thinking defender. But Onana gives you a 5th choice there. I actually think Onana's the best passer of the ball out of all of them. Him and Martinez will be the 2 players that almost will be nicking the ball and playing it into the channel to feet. And then you can exploit your own pace. Because one thing Man United have got, Scott, is legs. You can run. Rashford will have a field day with that ball into the channel. And it's not rocket science. And this is what the manager would love to do, because this is the modern game as well. And it's a big loss for Inter. If he leaves Inter, Inter got to the Champions League final. He was a massive part of that. You would not have said Inter 12 months ago would be getting to a Champions League final, would you, Scott?
Absolutely. And Onana's fit, like, to me, it just never occurred. It never really occurred to me that this was a thing that United would do, given we had De Gea having signed a contract, as it's now publicly been confirmed. This seemed like it was going to be De Gea plus a younger keeper. And if they were to go and get somebody else, we talked about David Raya, Diogo Costa, and there was probably others in it, but Andre Onana was never in it for us. But having heard of it, their interest, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
The reason why you didn't see it and the reason why we haven't talked about it is because we all assumed that Harry Maguire would be going out the door, that Maguire would say, yes, my time is done, I want to go. And that's not happened. Maguire has said, I'm staying, I'm on a big wage. And if you do move me, I want 10 million quid in my pocket before I even think about it. And Man United have gone, oh, don't like that. Let's now talk about a goalkeeper. So that's where it is. And that's why they changed their stance with David De Gea. It's not because they're ruthless, Scott. It's because they have got too many moving pieces. And I think the manager's gone, well, if you're not going to get me Kim, I want Onana. I need someone to ball play out for the back. Because that's what Kim would have been. Kim would have been a forward-thinking defender passing out from the back like kind of Martinez is, like Varane kind of is. And we talked a lot about Timber. We'll kind of touch him later. Timber would help you play out from the back, but he's now not coming. So the goalkeeper is an obvious choice because you're sticking with the two right backs you've got. So this is all moving bits and pieces. It's normal in football, but I think someone like Onana being on the market as well and being gettable and someone that Ten Hag knows, that's a big pull for everyone concerned.
Well, you mentioned Kim and Timber there. Onana, I think it's at negotiation stages. 50 million euros to 60 million euros is the price that potentially United and Inter could meet on. I don't think that's terrible value, really.
It's good value.
Yes, it's not bad, especially if United can. Inter are struggling for cash as well. If United can, they're not master negotiators by any stretch of the imagination. But if they can work some kind of magic, which they're not recognized for, then that would be a really good value deal.
Yeah, again, we talked a lot about Costa in the past. If the Costa stakes start at 60, and that's the start, because that's part of the clause on one thing or another. If you can get this goalkeeper for 50, and you are primarily buying him because you need to get better on the deck, then that's £10 million in your pockets. Now, I know football fans go, well, that's nothing, is it? 10 million quid. I'm afraid on your profit and loss, where Man United are making losses in certain departments, 10 million quid is a lot of money. It's a lot of money going back on your bottom line. So I think, I'm high on him. I like him as a goalkeeper. I've always thought he's a really good goalkeeper. He's not traditional in like maybe some of his shot stopping, but I think he's pretty good at coming for the ball. He's very mobile. He wouldn't have to use his hands as much, Scott, because he's just so good with his feet. Like, do you get what I mean? He'd just be trapping the ball with his chest, putting it on the deck and sweeping the ball out into the wing positions and into the channels and up to maybe a brand new centre forward. And he can do that in spades. I think he'd be a massive success under Ten Hag. It would allow Eric Ten Hag to go to the next phase of building the tactical profile of Manchester United.
You mentioned Kim and Timber, Rob, two other targets Eric Ten Hag has wanted. Since I've been away, Man United's chase of Kim has evaporated essentially because you mentioned there Harry Maguire. United have Eric Bailly, Harry Maguire, Victor Lindelof. All three would be sold for the right money if an offer was to come in. You also have Rafa Varane and a fit again, Lisandro Martinez. That's 5 centre-backs. Yeah. If you can't, they'll shift by, I think.
Yes.
On loan, probably.
What did I say to you in our show about value? I said I'd get rid of him for free. And you were like, a few quid. I was like, no, you need to get rid of these players. Tuanzebe's gone, isn't he? Right? And Tuanzebe with getting players not going to get you any kind of minutes. And what have they done with the lad that we've talked up a lot, Zidane Iqbal? They've gone to Zidane Iqbal. We construct a deal where we might be able to bring you back one day. It's a nice deal for us, but £1 million. So like he's gone to Utrecht. He can play football. And there's a lot of that happening is that you might have to take a much lower valuation on certain players if you need to move them to be able to go and buy other players. You're not doing Kim now because your captain is on a ton of money. He's just gone, I'm not here to help you. I'm here to get richer. So he's going to stay at Man United. And that means you have to move other pieces.
You wonder what Harry Maguire's England place will be like in a year's time. At the Euros.
He shouldn't be playing. Like, what's Gareth Southgate doing? I watched, you obviously played the other day and covered the games. And it's like, you kind of laugh. You go, I know you like Harry Maguire, but come on, this is a little bit over the top. Like, you have got other players, other defenders who can play there. Shouldn't you really be blooding them? Not a player that's sat on the bench and taking the money home. So No offense to Harry Maguire, but come on, go and live your life somewhere else. Go and live your career and be a footballer. Don't sit on our bench just because of a little bit of surplus cash. But this is why there's a lot of money involved in it. And if it's 10 million quid to him, he's thinking, I'll be retired in 5-10 years' time. So I'd like that 10 million quid in my pocket. I do understand that kind of logic.
So no Kim off to Bayern by the looks of it.
Yeah.
Not
good fit for them.
Not officially done yet, but it seems like Bayern will. Been speaking a lot today about how Bayern are looking to sign Premier League style targets.
Yes.
Under Thomas Tuchel, Declan Rice, Mason Mount, Harry Kane. They've tried for Frenkie de Jong. Might talk about him in a bit. They're interested in Kim on the way to Man United. Not anymore.
Nope.
And then they like Jurriën Timber as well, but obviously he is now another former Erik ten Hag player on his way to Arsenal. I think that makes a lot of sense. But obviously, when United have Wan-Bissaka, Dalot, and those five centre-backs I've just mentioned,
there you go.
You have to shift them, or at least be feeling like you can shift them if you're going to go and make investments like that when your budget's limited.
And that's why you're giving people away for free pretty much, because this is the thing. You're taking the hit yourself on your profit and loss, but you've got to do that if you want other players. I think the things with Kim is that you're never going to get a player like Kim again, and that release clause around 50. So Bayern are kind of strong arming it, and Bayern Munich are stronger than the whole of the Bundesliga. So they're kind of like the Premier League on their own, aren't they? They can get any player they ever want. That's how Bayern operate. So he's a good fit for them. Like he will do really well there. Man United agreed a wage deal with him. He was willing to come to United into the Premier League, but United have switched. So don't be surprised if you see a lot more of this kind of switching in the weeks ahead, because it's a long transfer window. Like I don't know when the deadline is, Scott. But we're still in the earliest days, really. It's, I know it feels like the new season is coming very quickly, but Man United will still be doing deals in the last week or two. So they're not rushing, even though, of course, fans want them to get players over the line immediately.
Yeah. Well, doesn't look like those players will be ending up at United.
Mason Mount.
I was just thinking, shall I move on to the midfield now, or any further notes on the defense? Let's move on to the midfield. I've got Adrien Rabiot first because United they spoke to Adrien Rabiot last year. They have this year. He was out of contract on Friday, June 30th. That's the same as De Gea is. United have spoke to him.
Yeah.
He signed a new contract at Juve for an extra year. So that one is not happening. I mean, he had a good season with Juventus, but to me, it doesn't strike me as automatic first choice for United. And if he did, I would be quite concerned about that. So it's not a super massive problem, is it?
I didn't want him. I really didn't want him. I think if you want to bring in someone who is on a, let's say, lower wage, like he won't be on a lower wage. He would be one of your real top earners. Like he was on a huge wage at Juve and has been for many years. If you want to do that, then just sign Sabitzer. Like if you want someone who's just going to sit on the bench and do bits, but you don't sign Rabiot to do it, do you? And I don't actually think he would work in that. And I think he'd want to come. So I think for him, he knows staying at Juve, did you say it's a year deal? Is that right?
Year, extra year.
A 12-month extension. So again, in 12 months' time, he gets to play the field again, doesn't he? So he actually had a really good season at Juve, even though Juve didn't particularly. But he's looked at the marketplace. Man United offered him similar deal to what they offered him before. And he's still gone. Now stay at Juve. I like the weather in
Well,
Turin.
he has the Euros next year. Like if you think about this, it works really in his favor. He has a year to play at Juve where he's been playing well. First choice. He can then go to the Euros out of contract. If he has a good Euros, then the world's his oyster kind of thing.
He's gone up the pecking order at Juve as well. So even though the problems they're having at that football club, it makes sense. 12 months is not a big leap of faith.
Let's do Mason then.
Yeah.
Mason Mount. Let's do Mason Mount. United made, while I was away, 3 offers for Mason Mount.
Yeah.
The last one of which was totaling £55 million, including add-ons. Chelsea batted each of them away. The third offer was rebutted with a counter offer of 58 million plus 7 in add-ons, totaling 65. There is a 65 million valuation on Chelsea's side per last offer versus Man United's 55. United made it clear at the time that they were making that bid that was their final bid. Now, we reported on 90min.com yesterday, you can read this on the site, that Chelsea's counter offer at 65, obviously that's the counter offer, but there's a middle ground here. And if United hit 60 and they come back to the table, Chelsea will do a deal. But United have drawn a line in the sand and have said, this is our last offer. And it appears that they are sticking to it. Personally, I am not like, if there was a player that I could pick to be in the midfield, first pick would not be Mason Mount for me at all.
No.
But if Erik ten Hag wants Mason Mount, 5 million difference to me. I know that people have made, and you'll probably go this way, Rob. United have been burned a lot of times in the past in transfers.
Mm-hmm.
United are trying to make sure that they do not be seen as the weak hand this time and caving into demands. To me, I think 5 million and meeting Chelsea in the middle when they valued him at 70 million in the first place, even more than that, I think. That's not bad. Even though I think 55, 60 million is paying too much for Mason Mount anyway. But what do you think?
Well, Chelsea valuing him at 70 million is a joke. So that, I think the thing is that sometimes, obviously, clubs will go high with their valuations of players they're moving on. You've also got to look at the situation of Mason Mount, where they offered him a deal. He said no because he didn't like the terms. He doesn't play football for them. And Chelsea kind of went, well, we're buying a load of other players. So, like, goodbye, lad. Go find yourself a club. He found himself Manchester United. That's where he landed in terms of what he wants. So he wants to come to United. But I do not believe that overpaying in every situation is prudent or smart. Again, we have to look at this. Like, forget the Glazer economic side of it. Like, just for a minute, if you're going for a player that, let's be honest, Mason Mount on the final year of his deal, it's probably worth about 40, 45 million in reality. Like, we live in reality. If Chelsea's saying 70 and that's done to make you come somewhere towards the middle ground, then I'm kind of saying no. I'm going, look, we've put a table. I did a tweet last week and kind of got some financial details here written down. I did a tweet around it. And I said, Man United, to get this deal done, need to put 50 cash on the table and then give Chelsea a realistic package of add-ons. Like, not if Mason Mount wins like Ballon d'Or next year, we'll pay an extra 2 million quid. Like, no. Proper stuff. Like, if we're in the Champions League next year, we'll pay an extra 2-3 million. Man United's offer overall comes to about 55 million. Chelsea are looking for 60 cash with a similar kind of package. Now, eventually, I think they will meet in the middle because the player wants it and both clubs do want it. But I'm saying no. If I'm United, I'm going, I'm not giving you more money for this guy who's desperate to come to us. What I'm saying is, right, Mason Mount, if you want to come to us, put in a transfer request. Do it now. Put your transfer request in. And if you lose money because of that, because that would obviously affect his bonuses and maybe his severance deal of leaving a football club on the final year, we will pay you instead. So do that. Put your transfer request in and we'll get you out of the football club. I think that's kind of what might happen in the end. But I also think that Chelsea desperately need the money because they're making moves. So you're going to find somewhere in the middle. It's going to be maybe an undisclosed fee because they often do that. And I think that's what it will be in the end, because United want to be seen to paying over the top and Chelsea won't want to be seen to like letting the player go for short of their ridiculously stupid valuation. Because what was it? Havertz, who's on a contract going to Arsenal, is 65 million. And you'll then want to sell Mason Mount for 70 odd. Like, come on, it's a joke. It's a joke. So Man United shouldn't actually do it. Because if you lose that player, Scott, like you just said there, get on with it. Go find another midfielder then. That's just the way it goes. But I would like Mason Mount at United. But for me, he's not an automatic starter. He'd have to work his way into the team. And about 50 million is about right for him.
Well, I said on June 1st, clubs apart on price, happy medium at 50 million plus, committed plus 10 million in performance-related add-ons.
Yeah.
That is essentially what the deal will be if United decide to do it. I think you make a fair point, Rob.
If you do add-ons, in the sense, when this is again the intricacies of these deals, and when we look into them, if the add-ons are that you get an extra £1 million at every 50 appearances, and if he makes, and you do that under, say, 250 appearances, which is a really long time, then that's £5 million for nothing. You're getting £5 million because your player's done all right for you. But if he doesn't make those and say in 20 games time, or he gets injured or something like that, and you're not paying it, then that's the way to save a little bit of money, isn't it? Like, if the player is a success for you, you pay a little bit more. but I don't think you should be putting more cash on the table. Like 50 million cash for a guy in his final year. No one else is doing that. No one else is putting that money on the table. And I think that's about his valuation. Like, he's a good player, but don't go mad. Don't kind of break the bank for every player. But then there are other players like a Frenkie de Jong or someone like that where you might break the bank because that's a unique opportunity. I don't think Mason Mount is a unique opportunity.
I think my point is really 55 is already a bit silly. So
yeah. So why get more silly? I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like, it's a bit like, I bought this sandwich for £7, but it's only worth £4. But I'll pay like £8 because I've already paid £7. Like, it's kind of like football is about commodity, isn't it? And these players are commodities. You're buying that to help you win. But the more you take away from one transfer means that another transfer gets impacted. So with Man United, there is a lot of that going on, is that they're trying to balance books. Today is a massive kit launch for Man United, a big day for their profit and loss. And United are looking at ways of saving money. And you can't just put extra zeros on cash deals just to make someone like Chelsea happy, who are a disruptive, weird football club themselves. Like, don't play their game, play your own.
Just one other thing to say on Mount. I think the reason why Chelsea are demanding that, he is also homegrown. So that is quite important in the sense of, you compare his price to Havertz. Yeah, I mean 60 versus 65 or 70 versus 65 for the two players doesn't make a lot of sense in their contract terms, but Mason Mount does have that homegrown factor, which is important for clubs like Man United.
Yeah,
like
but
Chelsea.
Then I'm just going to go and find another player in that situation, because there's millions of them. Like, I'm just going to get another player with homegrown. The situation with homegrown is really wide, so it's not like for me, it's not deal breakers. Like you said with Havertz, he's not got that status, but Havertz with a contract should not be worth more money than what you're saying Mason Mount should come to Man United for. So I think Chelsea are just trying to pull a fast one here on a rival. If they got 70 million for him with 1 year to go, they'd be laughing, wouldn't they, at us?
Do you think it gets done?
Yes. I think it gets done, and I think it gets done because everyone is agreed that it should get done. And I think Man United have taken the right stance, Scott, in saying to Chelsea, we're not going to renegotiate again. This is the deal we want to put forward for this player because this is his value. And if you don't like what we pay for the house, put the house back on the open market. Get on with it. We'll go buy another house. So I think the thing is with Mason Mount is that United do want him and he wants to come to United. And that makes me feel good. I want the player to come. I want players who want to come to United. But at the same time, I'm not going to massively overpay. A little bit more, yes. A little bit more add-ons, yes. But I'm not giving you more cash for a player like that.
You're talking about other houses. Is Moises Caicedo the other house? I mean, let's talk about this. United have moved away from Mason Mount and have put it out there that we want Moises Caicedo instead, who the line is 70 plus 10, 80 odd million will get it done.
Yes.
Brighton are seeing Declan Rice being sold for probably 100 million, and they are thinking this player is younger and just as good. So what reason do we have to take 80? So do you really think that Man United are going to go and, oh no, Mason Mount, we're not going to pay an extra 5 million. Do you reckon they're going to go to 100 million for Kaisado?
Who, Chelsea or just anyone in general? Man United? No, they're not going to go to 100 million. But I'm going to talk about this in a kind of more lateral sense. I would be more willing to pay that fee, 70 plus 10 or something like that, or maybe 70 plus player or something around that ilk, than I am putting another 5 million quid on Mason Mount. And some people go, that's ridiculous. But it's all about the talent and what the impact is. And I look at Kaisado, and I do put Kaisado in the Declan Rice ballpark. I think he's that good. And I think we've seen at Brighton his upside here. This is why he's so popular. This is why teams want him. And his valuation has done this, hasn't it, Scott? For like 24 months, bang, bang, bang. Man United could have had him for all of 4 million quid once upon a not so long ago, but you didn't take him. You decided not to do that deal. Now you might have to pay a lot more. I think he is worth that, and I actually think he's worth more than that. 70 plus 10, but I'd go to 80 cash and then throw a player in.
Like in the context of United's current budget,
yes,
can they do that? Is my question, without it being 60 million euros on Onana plus Højlund for 50, 60 million euros. We won't talk about him today, but United need a striker. going to go after a goalkeeper. That there is 120 million euros. You're telling me that United are still going to shift on all these players and spend 80 to 100 million on Kaisado? Not going to happen for me.
No, I don't. I'm not saying predicting. I'm not being Nostradamus and predicting it will happen. But as we're seeing, and we've just talked here about Kim and Maguire and all of this and all the moving pieces, is that you're saying, can they do it? I'm saying, yes, they can do it, but you'd have to let the moving pieces work themselves out, and you'd have to decide what you're doing. Because to me, it's always more about wage deals. It's not about money up front. You can find ways to generate capital to move on and construct deals. Chelsea are still doing this same old rubbish, but they're buying this lad now, was it from Villarreal? Yeah, on an 8-year contract. It's a joke, and it's going to get found out. I'm happy, actually, Man United are not doing that. It's a silly way of doing business. But if you want a Kaisado, and we just said there about problems 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and say you suddenly decide, because things are moving around, we really need a central midfielder, and then someone goes to you from Barcelona, well, Frenkie de Jong might be available again, and you go, we quite like him, and then someone says, well, actually, Kaisado's on the market, and you go, I quite like him. Declan Rice on the market. Okay, you might then shift your focus away from a striker, because let's be honest, no one's paying 70 million for Højlund at all. And if you're going to go and get Harry Kane, you're going to have to put more cash on the table. Obviously, there is a now cash offer on there to Tottenham, which is the starting of the bidding war for Harry Kane. But do you pay more for Harry Kane? Do you pay 100 million? Do you do that? Man United have got the capital to do it, Scott. They have. It's just that when you look deeper into it, it's the wage bill is a massive problem at Man United. So you let players go, and as soon as you've got rid of players, you've got the ability to flex. You've got the ability to go and do more other deals. I don't think they're anywhere near to start the pecking order with Kaisado. I don't even think they are with the player. He liked United initially, but I don't think that that's a thing at the moment. He's going to probably go to the teams that he's been linked with all the way through for about a year. But Man United can do that deal. That's what I'm saying. If they do 70 million, 80 million, they can do it. It's just that you need to move other players out, don't you? You need to find a way to get Maguire off your books.
We'll just say on Kaisado, regardless of the valuation on him, I mean, in terms of the fit of midfielder that I think United need, I've always kind of said United need a player who can cover Casemiro and also play next to Casemiro.
Yep.
I think Kaisado can do that.
And Kaisado can also play fullback. Kaisado's quite good with carrying the ball. Kaisado's actually quite good at all the kind of hard work side of the midfield, isn't he? So he's a multifaceted player, and you're getting more value out of him. Do you know what I mean? So this is why Man United might look at that. And for me, Scott, this transfer window is long. United might pull off one of these bigger deals much later in the window if they haven't got their targets. This is the De Gea thing, is that De Gea takes 350 odd grand off your wage bill, like that, clicking my fingers into my microphone. And when you take that 350 off, that is 3 players in some contexts. You might be able to go into the market and say, actually, we go get 3 players for 100 grand a week now. And that actually has value to us. And we will pay more and structure deals around that, because these 3 players instantaneously make us a more competitive outfit. You're in the Champions League this year, Scott. You need to get better across the pitch. You're not going to buy 8, but you might buy 3 or 4. And if you buy 3 or even 2, you might go to a higher valuation on certain targets and then start really rolling the dice to kind of get one of those bigger players. Kaisado, Rice, they're all available if you want to go get them. Just that you've got to go compete to go get them. We talked about Declan Rice, didn't we, as well? And that's open. And if you can put cash forward and a player that West Ham wants and David Moyes is really interested in, it doesn't mean that you can't get that deal done as well. So there's a lot to play for at this early stage.
Just going to throw this in there. I'm just scrolling through Twitter as you're talking there, Rob. There are suggestions on the goalkeeper side of things. And I did write this in a report about 6 weeks ago, possibly longer. FC Porto has to cash in 50 million euros in capital gains by Friday. Did write that in relation to United.
We talked about it ages ago.
Ages ago, if you remember.
Yeah.
That's Friday. They still haven't sold a player yet. The suggestions that he is on the way to the Premier League from Portugal. Now, we know, take Portugal reports of Prem joining Man United, especially with a pinch of salt. But, that's not to say that there could be a deal done there at 50, If Porto get desperate.
Totally.
But I just jumped back to the goalkeepers. But
yeah, look, we should jump back to the goalkeepers, because that's obviously almost like breaking news in many ways. But I think when you look at it, is that if you've decided what you're doing with De Gea, and it looks like they have, is that you go and do the chat with Onana's people and you bring them to England and you chat to them and you find a way and you construct a deal and that's all right. Again, it doesn't mean you do that deal, isn't it? You look at the value. If Costa suddenly comes on the market and Porto knock on your door and say, well, you did approach us about this player multiple times in the past. Man United got very good contacts in Portugal, deep scouting network in Portugal as well. And you want this player. We know you want Onana, but why don't you give us that money? Like, don't give it to Inter. We want your cash. We want your Premier League dollars. Bring it here. So that could happen. I think he will end up at a Premier League club, Scott, if he leaves Porto. But what I was trying to make to you, and I said this off camera to you, is that the 20 clubs in the Premier League now, almost into the relegation zone, have got so much money that they can compete now with the top clubs for top players.
Have you seen the Deloitte rank? It's so depressing.
The Deloitte ranking tells us every year how depressing it is. So like, I think the thing is that you've just seen actually the young lad gone to Bournemouth. What's his name? Is it Kluivert? Is it Kluivert? So Kluivert's gone there. Now Kluivert was a big talent not so long ago, like a young talent. He was absolutely groomed to kind of be going to top clubs type player. Now it hasn't worked for him, but not so long ago, Bournemouth would not be in a destination for a person like Kluivert. And you're seeing this more and more.
Do you know what the one that stood out to me was the other day? Brighton going for Mohamed Kudus, who we spoke about.
There you go.
On this show.
And they've got a chance to get him because they've got the money.
Real chance.
They are rich. Like Aston Villa, people talking about Monchi going to Aston Villa and obviously their manager now. And you look at kind of there and you think to your situation, what was their Aston Villa? No, they're really, 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 really rich. Massively
richer than United, probably.
Richer than United in cash terms, 5th richest club in the Premier League. So people think of it in traditional terms, don't they? And they go, oh, well, these clubs can't get this wide play. I bet you Costa could end up scarily at a team that you would go, what? Like he could end up at a Wolves.
Wolves.
Yeah. And people would go, but Wolves haven't got money. Yes, they have. Everyone's got money. So this is the thing now. It's not like if you lose a player like Kudus, who you looked at for a long period of time, Kudus going on the market 45, 50 million, is absolutely every chance he ends up at Brighton if they go and sell their lad, Kaisado, for 100 million. So this is the way it works now. And these clubs have got cash surpluses that were never there before, Scott. It's real. And they compete with even the top 4 teams now. Man United are looking at like another kind of 19 clubs, whereas in the past they were looking at maybe 1 or 2 in the Premier League to compete with. No, you will lose your targets to these teams in the bottom tier now, bottom half of the league, because they can all pay the wages. Look at Nottingham Forest last year, bought 48 players or whatever. They couldn't do that 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. It's crazy.
And then if you want them in 2 years, you have to pay twice. No, in Moises Caicedo's case, pay literally 20 times what Brighton have paid for him. If you want him. And now they're doing that with players that United are even considering signing now, like in terms of Kudus' level.
Absolutely. And you say you buy Kudus or you buy a Costa, like, and this is, I know it's hypothetical, but it is real as well because we're seeing examples. You buy Costa, say for 60 million, say Wolves, and he's brilliant. And for a year or two, he is absolutely the best goalkeeper in the Premier League. And we'll go, oh, wow. Do you know what happens? Man United offer 120 million. That's how it works. So clubs know there is sell-on value here. Kudus coming 45 million, 50 million. Brilliant. Scores 20 goals next year. Oh, 120 million suddenly. This is the world we live in. We have so much of this. That's why we talk about sports washing and the cash, because the cash is there and it is being recycled. And we're seeing that more and more money is going to, say, the smaller teams in the Premier League, but they've got money to start off with. And that's why they're buying in that marketplace now, and they never used to.
Sorry, we went off piste.
I don't blame them, by the way. I don't blame them, like, for competing. Go buy better players and get better. Like, that's what football is about.
Let's go back to the midfield.
Oh, yeah. We're kind of...
Like, the midfield is the last topic. We're on our last 2 players.
Yeah.
We'll probably be going for an hour because we've been off for 2 weeks. What do you want to do first? Declan Rice or Frenkie de Jong?
Let's end on Frenkie because he's Frenkie.
Right, let's do Declan first. Declan Rice, is there a chance? It says in my notes, Man City and Arsenal have both made bids. I've seen them rejected by West Ham. We know from our guys in the team at 90 Min that West Ham are getting a bit miffed that nobody's meeting their £100 million plus price for Declan Rice in cold hard cash. They want 100 plus 20. That's what they want.
Yes.
They're getting a bit miffed that it's 80 plus 10 or 75 plus 15. City's was 80 plus 10. Arsenal's third bid was 75 plus 15. West Ham can hold out all summer. Does that give United some time to say, get the takeover? Well, it could take bloody 2 years
Forever.
at this rate to get it sorted and potentially come in late with players in exchange magically. I don't know.
Yes. So let's talk about it again. What bits do we actually know? So there's two clubs primarily in for Declan Rice. We know who they are, Manchester City and Arsenal. Manchester United have inquired about Declan Rice countless times and recently. So they know what the valuation is. They know what West Ham want. So West Ham clearly trying to cash in at the highest level possible. So they should. They're looking at past deals. So 2 years ago, Jack Grealish for £100 million, and as I used to call him, the £100 million substitute, who came good. Manchester City fans will now say, Rob, you were completely wrong about that player. But I think when you look at Declan Rice and the situation he's in with his contract, West Ham know that they can play the field here a little bit more and they can go as long as they want. So as you just said there, the 100 plus 20, I think that's a little bit more fluid. So you got City's offer.
Oh, it is. Yeah, but that's West Ham's position. Yeah,
that's their position in the same way that Chelsea's position for Mason Mount is 70. Boo-hoo, you're not going to probably get what you want, but you might get something that you do like. So I think when you look at this and you look at Manchester City's 90 plus 10, that's the best offer on the table as we speak. And let's be honest, if you want to go to the treble winning champions, then maybe Declan Rice quite likes that. It's a thing, isn't it? It's like success breeds success. When you look at Arsenal, people say, oh, he might like the Arsenal project more. What? No, this is about money in the first instance. So he's not going to go, I like Arsenal's project more. For me, if he really wants to stay in London, then of course it's Arsenal. So where do Man United fit into this? This is what I said to you as a hypothetical before, and I'll say it on camera because I do believe it, is that if you can put the cash deal together that West Ham wants, so say somewhere in that 80 to 90 million pound ballpark, but you can offer both add-ons and players that they want, then you've got a chance. Man City, as it stands, haven't got those assets that they can move on. They've lost the Gundawans. Bernardo Silva might be out the door. They have Calvin Phillips, but I don't know whether that's something that they're willing to do at the moment. I really don't. Not in the way that Calvin Phillips' contract is. So, yeah, you could offer that, but it's a little bit of a strange one in terms of valuation or what Man City might see as Phillips's valuation. What Man United have got is they've got transfer kitty. We don't want to talk about how much that is, but they've got money in that terms. But they have got players that they are trying to move out who are proven Premier League footballers. Maguire, McTominay, Fred. You've got a ton of players there that West Ham might look at and go, okay, let's talk business. And we don't want to talk one player. We want two. We want 80 plus two of these players. And we want you to sort their contracts out. We don't want to pay Maguire big money. We want to pay him our money. Then those players might be interested as well, Scott. Like Maguire might look at that and go, actually, I've got my 10 million quid in my pocket. I play every week at West Ham. I want to play for England. And West Ham really is a good fit for me. And I could take West Ham to the top six, again, and push them forward. They've just won a trophy and we're going to be playing in Europe next year. Yeah, I'm up for that. McTominay might go, well, Newcastle don't really want me anymore because that's the kind of position at the moment. Fred might go, oh, well, Fulham, not much difference between Fulham and West Ham. West Ham more established. You could do that deal and get Declan Rice, but then you have to convince Declan Rice. And I think he'd be interested in Man United in the same way we've always talked that Harry Kane would be interested in Man United. So United remain a massive club and his best friend is coming to Manchester United. I know people don't want to talk about that, but Mason Mount coming there, he is Declan Rice's best friend and they've always talked in the press and outwardly how they would love to play for a club together one day. We all thought that would be Chelsea. But it's not going to be Chelsea, is it? We know it's not going to be Chelsea. So he's not going to go to Chelsea when Mount's just leaving in that way, unless, of course, Chelsea put together an astonishing deal for him. So I think United are in the Declan Rice stakes. I really, really do. Do I think it will happen? Probably not. But I do think that there is a lot more to discuss here. This is a long window, and Man United could gazump everyone and put together a deal that even Man City can't really match. I don't know City have got the assets that you would want. Like, would you be interested in one of the City lads from below the squad, like a Palmer or someone like that, that might be a nice little throw in. Like, he's a good player, isn't he? Like, he's a Premier League player. I think he's good, but he's not a Maguire. He's not even a McTominay in terms of experience, or Fred, but you've got assets, so you could do it.
Before we get into Frankie, I will just come back to the top of the show. David De Gea, Chris Wheeler from the Daily Mail saying Ten Hag is behind Man United's U-turn over De Gea's contract after the manager expressed concerns about keeping the Spaniard as his number one. So that form in the second half of the season, I would say, Eric, though, you should have known that before.
I don't think it's about form. My God, we watch football all the time. It's our jobs to watch it, and we're fans. We all saw it. We all know it. It's not like they're telling me the manager's going, oh, I just didn't see it for 6 months. He saw it on day one, Scott. The day he turned up at Carrington, he saw that David De Gea couldn't kick a ball like he probably wanted him to. But you can't change everything overnight.
Don't offer him the deal in the first place.
Exactly. That's what we've been saying. But I think there's a lot. This is United's posturing, isn't it, as a football club? Is that it kind of go, oh, we would like to keep you, but you know what? You're going to take a 0 off here, a 0 off there. Oh, no, now we want Onana. All right, we're going to offer you 100 grand. Oh, it's rubbish. So I don't think this is on the manager. This is why I say that. I wouldn't insult Eric Ten Hag to say that he just didn't know that. Of course he knew it. We knew it. He must have known it. So I do think the second half of the season wasn't great for De Gea, but you did win a trophy. So, you got in the Champions League, you tick box. But I do think that someone like Onana's on the market, or maybe Costa now, you go execute those deals because they are really, really good goalkeepers.
Another interjection there. Sorry. The running order's all over the shop. Let's finish the show with a Man United legend who has never played for the club.
Wesley Sneijder.
Heads are in that territory. Wesley Sneijder, Nico Gaitan, those kinds of players. Legends. Now, Twitter went wild on Monday after someone said Frenkie de Jong at Barcelona was not as set in stone as everyone else. So myself and the team at 90 Min, you can read it now, might even put it in the description of this episode. We wrote a piece on essentially how the lay of the land, because Bayern Munich would like Frenkie de Jong. Joshua Kimmich would like Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
That's been completely open. Bayern have said, nah, you're not having Joshua Kimmich. But at the same time, if Barcelona want a 6 who's going to replace Sergio Busquets, which Frenkie de Jong is not that, is he?
No.
He can't do that the entire time. We all know Barcelona's issues with financials. They pulled a ton of levers last year. They can't do that this year. They can't do it. Now, that means that they're going to try and ship out the likes of Ansu Fati, Frank Kessie. But like Man United's situation, if your players aren't very good in your first team, chances are a lot of clubs aren't really going to want to pay the type of money you want for those players. They're going to want the players that are real sellable assets in your team. Hence why Man United and Frenkie de Jong, Man United and Barcelona agreed a deal for Frenkie de Jong last year, which did not come to pass. We all know the reasons why. But it also says this in the piece. Those issues have not yet been resolved. So the deferred wages, it could be a thing again. Bayern want Frenkie de Jong. If Bayern want Frenkie de Jong and de Jong is going to go anywhere, Eric Ten Hag will absolutely make sure that Man United are in the race for Frenkie de Jong. If he leaves, are you prepared for another summer of Frenkie de Jong? Do you think it will be another summer of Frenkie de Jong? Let's go.
I'm quite zen about all the transfer window, because I've realised after 25 windows of reporting as a journalist that you got to be zen because things change very, very quickly. So let's just kind of do a quick overview of Frenkie and kind of get to where we need to be with it. So what happened last year with Frenkie de Jong? Right, we kind of do know, don't we? The big thing was he wasn't massively kind of found Man United attractive. Man United were not in the Champions League. Oh, guess what's changed? Man United are now in the Champions League. So we know that situation is said with Kimmich and with Bayern and what Bayern would like. They like Frenkie de Jong. It's a player that they would kind of like to absorb into their system and player that they think would do really well in the Bundesliga. But as you said, talking about Barcelona's finances, let's look at it like this, Scott. When we were talking about how much of a basket case club Barcelona were 12 months ago, when they were trying to move stuff around and they were like not paying people and all this, guess what happened? They won La Liga. So well done. You did what you wanted to do. You got what you wanted, didn't you? So you played everyone. You played Man United with De Jong for weeks and months and all of that, and you won the league. That's a good thing, Scott, isn't it? That's a good thing for Barcelona. Barcelona are now in a situation where they have to move players. That is just where they are. So they won the league last year. They might not win the league this year because of that, but they're going to put price tags on players. So what we heard, of course, is that if there was a special offer for Frenkie de Jong, Manchester United, Bayern Munich, whoever, Newcastle even, there's buyers out there, then we would consider it. And that's kind of what they said 12 months ago. So I don't know if the deferred wages will be a thing, because Frenkie de Jong 12 months ago should have told Barcelona where to go, and he didn't. He stayed. He even publicly backed them. I want to stay at this football club. So do I think Frenkie de Jong wants to leave Barcelona? No, I really don't.
He still wants to stay. Let's put it out there.
He still wants to stay, but there is a list of 5 or 6 players at Barcelona that Barcelona are willing to move, and his name is on it. His name was on it 12 months ago when that list was 12, and now it's a smaller list. And Barcelona do need to somehow recoup capital. They do. That's just the truth. So I think Frenkie de Jong is a possibility for Man United. But again, this would be what I call a shotgun signing. It's something that we won't hear a lot of. And then suddenly, bang, United have put in a super massive bid for it and included Harry Maguire going to the Camp Nou or something.
There were suggestions that
I know
they wanted him a few months ago.
I know they actually said that. And again, they would be like, they did take a load of players this year and last year that you kind of go, why have Barcelona taken that player?
Marcos Alonso.
They've just signed Joselu, haven't they? They've just taken.
No, it's Real Madrid.
No, Real Madrid have just taken Joselu. Would you think Real Madrid would take a player like that 2, 3, 4 years ago? No, because they're having to pad the squad out in different ways.
Man United took Joselu.
Although the end of the world,
titles is not a fair comparison.
If Man United took Joselu, we would have to do a 4-hour special on why the end of the earth was about to happen. So, but look, this is how clubs do their business now, isn't it? And Barcelona will be filling in the gap. So, no, I don't think that he's coming to Man United, old Frenkie. But I do think that if there is a valuation and a price, and say Man United get priced out of the Kaisado stakes and the Rice stakes, and they see all their competitors getting better in midfield, they might go, right, blockbuster trade. We're going to go and do the big one, because you know what? We then steal the headlines. And we know that they love doing that at Man United. That's part of what they do. So we still have to wait for the ownership. There will be something happening with the ownership in the future one day. Does that mean Frenkie de Jong could correlate with that? Yes, it could. But I also think there's so many other players out there that Man United are working on for deals. And Frenkie, would you like Frenkie, Scott?
I would put Frenkie in this unique box of United have done all their transfer business, and at the same time, if there were even a modicum of funds there, that Erik ten Hag would ensure they stretch to sign him. I would put him in that box.
My list of midfielder box in order. So we'll do a little play in that little game. 1 would be Declan Rice. 2 would be Kaisado. And even though I think Frenkie is better than both those players, I really do. Like, he's obviously generational talent and all of that. The money that you'd have to spend and the deal to go get him would probably impact the rest of your window. You wouldn't be able to buy anyone else because he's on huge wages as well. He'd probably be on less wages than those other two. But I think if you're prioritizing what you need for your midfield, you said it before about how do you cover Casemiro, because that is really important, I think. And I think that's why, for me, Rice and Kaisado come before De Jong. De Jong's great, but I don't think De Jong makes you title contenders. I don't. I think he's really good. And he had a good season last year, let's be honest, didn't he? He won the league with them. He was a big part of it. Yeah. Are you going to go do it? Are you going to go Declan Rice?
No, go on. Don't get too excited. I saw people tweet yesterday, I'm not ready for Frenkie de Jong. I'm not ready. Just don't. Like,
there's nothing concrete yet.
Nothing concrete.
No.
All I would say is that the name was out there, so we just thought, let's do a lay of the land. Let's tell you how it is.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think you can get Declan Rice. I really do. And I still actually think you can get Harry Kane. I really do. But look, we don't know too much about what's going on with Kane and Tottenham at the moment. We really don't. We know that Kane was advised to stay at Spurs. So I think we will be doing more Harry Kane to Man United very, 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 very soon. That will happen just because it's a natural course of discussion. But we need to kind of find out a little bit more from the Tottenham Hotspur side of it. What obviously they want to do with the new coaching and all of the way that they want to go forward. Does Harry Kane want to leave now, or does he want to win the lottery in 12 months' time?
There are suggestions from Germany that Harry Kane wants to join Bayern, but I would stress that those sources are from Germany.
Those sources are from Bayern Munich.
So
what was the offer? 70 million was the starting bid for Harry Kane. I think that's derisory. If it's just
70... if United had made a 70 million bid for Harry Kane, they would be laughed out of the room. But
you're not getting him for 70 million unless the player is so desperate to come to your club. So Harry Kane 70 million, but then Mason Mount 70 million. Like, none of this makes any sense. It's just hogwash. So yeah, I think the Harry Kane stakes come, and I do think the striker situation is really interesting now because there's nothing actually really obvious or clear cut. It's all kind of fading away a little bit in terms of your targets and what you could go get. The valuations have gone up because players have got better. And do you then end up with another journeyman striker, or, do you use maybe one of the strikers in your squad who hasn't played football for you for a very long time? So I think there's that discussion to be had on Friday and obviously in the weeks ahead.
Man United signed Joselu from Real Madrid. Anyway,
he plays up front. We need a number 9.
1 hour, 6 minutes. We're pushing. Long show. It's been 2 weeks, so forgive us. Hopefully you stuck with us for this long catch-up show. We'll be back on Friday. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and watch us on YouTube. Head over to the channel, like, subscribe, leave a comment, etc., etc., etc. Follow us on Twitter @_Scott Saunders, @_Rob_B, @PromiseandMU for the show. And on Instagram, Scott Saunders89. Rob doesn't have it. Let's get in the comments and urge Rob to get on Instagram.
Just Rob B there on Twitter. That's where you can find me.
Think of how many pictures you could put on Instagram, especially when we're in Vegas, because we're going to Vegas from July 28th.
I'll put them all on Twitter. I'll put them all on Twitter for you. Follow me on Twitter and you'll get all that exclusive content there.
Las Vegas from July 28th at UnitedCon. We'll be there. The place for United fans are on their preseason tour of the US. There's a ton of names there, including us. Visit united-con.com for more information and to book your place. Been going on too long. I'm going to end the show there. Thanks for listening, everyone. This has been The Promise And. We'll be back on Friday, hopefully, with some more definitive takeover news to tell you. I doubt it, but maybe we'll be digging more into United's transfer plans for the summer. Thanks, everyone. See you soon.